The shadows whispered against the cold ground, 10 pairs of boots barely making a sound. Shirin's heart pounded, each beat echoing in the stillness. This was it. The air tasted metallic, a mix of fear and determination swirling in her throat. The distant city lights of Tehran shimmered like mocking stars, each flicker a reminder of what they were leaving behind. Her palms were slick with sweat, trembling as she gripped the strap of her gear. The scent of diesel and dust clung to the night, heavy and oppressive. She could hear the faint rustle of her sisters behind her, their breath quickening in anticipation. Each woman carried the weight of secrets, regrets, and hopes for freedom. The moon was hidden, but under its cloak they prepared to step into the unknown, their resolve hardening with every silent heartbeat. Time felt suspended, a fragile thread stretched taut as they took their first steps toward a destiny unknown. The sun streamed through the window, warming the small apartment, the light catching the dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Shirin, just a girl then, rose early. The familiar sounds of her neighborhood in Vanak hummed in the background. She could hear the melodic call of the muezzin echoing through the narrow streets, the soft thud of footsteps on the pavement as the neighbors began their daily routines. The inviting aroma of freshly baked sangak wafted up from the bakery down the street, a scent so comforting that it felt like a warm hug. With each breath, her stomach grumbled a reminder of her simple joys. Shirin slipped into her well-worn slippers, the cool tile beneath her feet grounding her in reality. She was careful not to wake her parents, their soft snores mingling with the distant sounds of morning in the bustling city. The walls were adorned with family photos, capturing moments of laughter, birthdays, and celebrations that felt so vivid, yet distant. She padded across the living room, careful to avoid the squeaky floorboard as she pushed the door open, stepping out into the vibrant world outside. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden beams that glinted off the rooftops. Shirin walked along the familiar path to the bakery, her heart fluttering in excitement. The streets were alive, neighbors greeting each other with hearty salam and sharing gossip over the day's news. Children raced by, their laughter ringing out, echoing the innocence of their carefree days. The vibrant colors of the painted walls surrounding her brightened her spirit. It was a canvas of life, a blend of greens, blues, and yellows that told stories of generations. As she approached the bakery, the intoxicating scent became richer, a blend of warm bread, sesame seeds, and a hint of sweetness from the pastries. She could already envision the zulbia, crispy and glistening with syrup, waiting to be devoured. The baker, an elderly man with flour-dusted hands and a kind smile, waved her over, his face creasing into a grin. "Salam, Shirin Jan," he called, his warm voice carrying over the bustling sounds of the day. "Salam," she replied, her cheeks flushing with warmth. He handed her a warm piece of sangak, still steaming, its surface rough yet comforting. The bread crackled softly as she tore off a piece, relishing the taste. It was a small moment, but it filled her with joy. She savored every bite as she continued on her way, the flaky texture melting in her mouth, mixed with the sweetness of her youth. The streets led her to school, the small building nestled among larger structures. Her classmates, bright-eyed and full of dreams, gathered around, their chatter creating a symphony of laughter. They played games, ran through the schoolyard, and shared stories as if the world outside held no worries. The teachers, strict yet caring, imparted lessons that Shirin soaked up like a sponge. The chalk dust hung in the air, the faint smell of paper and ink mingling with the laughter of her friends. It felt safe here, a cocoon of knowledge. As the sun climbed higher, school days blended into afternoon routines. Shirin would race home, her heart pounding with excitement, ready to tell her parents about her day. The clanging of pots and pans greeted her as she entered the kitchen. The rich aroma of gourmet sabzi, a fragrant stew filled with a medley of herbs and tender meat, made her stomach rumble in anticipation. Her mother stood at the stove, her hands moving gracefully as she stirred the pot, the steam rising like a familiar embrace. "Bazi Khan, my dear, come help me," her mother called, her voice warm and inviting. Shirin rushed to her side, eager to learn. She could feel the warmth of the stove radiating against her skin, the heat wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. Together, they chopped vegetables, the rhythmic sound of the knife hitting the cutting board a soothing melody. The sun streamed through the window, casting patterns on the floor that danced in time with their laughter. Dinner was a sacred time, a moment when the family came together. The table set with precision, each dish carefully placed, reflected the love woven into their daily lives. The steamed rice sparkled like pearls, glistening under the glow of the overhead light. Her father would enter, his laughter booming, filling the room with warmth. The clatter of utensils and the playful banter created an orchestra of sounds, harmonizing with the comforting smell of spices that filled the air. They shared stories, dreams, and aspirations, each moment an anchor to their past, a thread binding them together. After dinner, the family would gather in the living room. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on the walls as they shared tales of their day. Shirin would lean against her father, feeling safe and cherished. His voice was soothing, wrapping around her as he spoke of the stars, their stories woven into the fabric of their lives. She would close her eyes, listening intently, imagining herself among those stars, exploring worlds beyond her own. As night deepened, the sounds of the city shifted. The bustle faded, replaced by the soft whisper of the breeze outside. Shirin would retreat to her room, the walls painted in soft pastels adorned with posters of her favorite singers. The faint glow of her bedside lamp illuminated her pages as she delved into books, her imagination igniting with every word. The stories transported her to lands filled with adventure, a contrast to the mundane yet beautiful reality outside her window. Every evening, the call of the muezzin echoed through the neighborhood, a reminder of their deep-rooted traditions. Shirin would close her eyes, listening to the melodic tones blending with the sounds of the night. Families prayed together, voices joining in a chorus that resonated through the streets, a signal of unity and hope. The gentle hum of her mother's lullabies would often lull her to sleep, weaving dreams of a bright future filled with endless possibilities. And then, the mornings would come again, the cycle of life, repetitive, yet comforting. Shirin would rise, the sunlight pouring in through the window, painting her room in soft hues of warmth. The sounds of laughter, the aromas of cooking, and the whispers of dreams filled her heart. The weight of her childhood enveloped her, each moment a stepping stone toward a future she could not foresee. In the heart of Vanak, life flowed like a river, each day a new beginning. The simple pleasure of sharing a meal, the camaraderie of friends at school, and the warmth of family filled her days with meaning. The streets were alive with stories, and Shirin was a part of that rich tapestry. She carried the weight of their dreams and aspirations in her heart, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. Each evening, she would gaze at the stars, a sea of shimmering lights above her. She pondered the unknown, her mind wandering to places beyond her childhood. The scent of fresh sangak lingered as she drifted into dreams, and she found solace in the comforting embrace of her mundane life, unaware of the choices that lay ahead, choices that would change everything. The air buzzed with tension, thickening like the fog rolling in from the Caspian Sea. Shirin stood with her heart pounding, surrounded by her comrades in a dimly lit room. The flickering fluorescent light above cast erratic shadows on the walls, distorting their faces. Each woman wore a mask of determination, yet uncertainty danced in their eyes. They were no longer soldiers of the IRGC. They were seekers of freedom, ready to break away from the suffocating grip of the regime. The walls felt like they were closing in. Shirin's palms grew clammy, slick with sweat. She wiped them against her worn tactical pants, the fabric rough against her skin. She felt the familiar weight of her Kalashnikov slung across her back, the cool metal a reminder of her training, of everything she had been taught to fight for. But now, there was a different battle ahead. They had to make it out, undetected. "Are you ready?" a voice whispered. It was Layla, her closest friend, her eyes glinting with a mix of fear and resolve. "Ready," Shirin replied, her voice barely above a breath. The sound felt fragile in the charged atmosphere, like a flame flickering in a storm. Across the room, the others huddled together. Each woman exchanged glances, affirmations passing silently between them. The room pulsed with unspoken fears. They were aware of the stakes. The IRGC and Basij patrolled the streets, their presence a constant shadow. Every corner of Tehran held a watchful eye. The plan formed in whispers, sketched out on a crumpled piece of paper that felt like a relic from another world. It outlined their escape route through the back alleys of Narmak. Past familiar haunts turned hostile. The air was thick with the scent of anxiety, mixed with the faint hint of stale cigarettes lingering from a nearby cafe. As they moved, The silence of the night enveloped them. Shirin's heart hammered in her chest, echoing the rhythm of her footsteps. The call to prayer echoed from a distance, a haunting melody that intertwined with her racing thoughts. They slipped into the shadows, cloaked by darkness, but the weight of their mission hung heavy. They navigated the winding streets, each step punctuated by the crunch of gravel beneath their boots. The quiet was deceptive, a calm before the storm. Shirin could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every flicker of movement made her skin prickle. Was someone watching? She glanced over her shoulder, a nagging doubt twisting in her stomach. The streets of Vanak felt foreign in the stillness. The familiar landmarks, the little boulangeries that smelled of fresh naan and the vibrant murals splashed across the walls, faded into the background. They were mere ghosts of what had once been comforting. The streetlights cast sharp shadows that danced menacingly on the pavement, as if warning them to turn back. "Keep moving," Shirin urged, her voice low but firm. Just then, a faint sound pierced the stillness. The distant rumble of a motorcycle echoed through the stillness, growing louder with every heartbeat. Panic surged within her. The Basij patrols roamed these streets, notorious for their brutal crackdowns. The noise was unmistakable, a reminder of the regime's iron fist. "Hide!" Shirin commanded, her heart racing as she pulled Layla into a narrow alleyway. The cold brick pressed against her back, a stark contrast to the heat radiating from her skin. The sound of the motorcycle became a thunderous roar, drowning out everything else. Shirin's breath caught in her throat, the air suddenly thick and suffocating. The motorcycle whizzed past the alley, the rider's silhouette a blur. Shirin held her breath, her heart thudding in her ears. She risked a glance around the corner, her body coiled like a spring. The street lay empty, the shadows deepening. For a moment, everything froze. They were on the brink of escape, yet the world felt suspended, teetering on the edge of chaos. After several agonizing moments, the sound of the motorcycle faded into the night. Shirin exhaled, her breath a shaky whisper. "That was too close," Layla breathed, her voice trembling. "Yes," Shirin replied, her mind racing. They had to keep moving. Every second spent in that alley felt like an eternity. Time had become their enemy. They slipped back into the street, the taste of fear sharp on their tongues. Shirin led the way, every nerve in her body attuned to the environment. The whisper of the wind wrapped around them, carrying the distant sounds of the city, yet the silence felt ominous. The group pressed forward. Shirin felt every heartbeat as they navigated the streets. The thrill of the chase mingled with a sense of foreboding. Each turn brought new obstacles. They passed through a deserted market square, the stalls shuttered and abandoned, their previous vibrancy stripped away. The smell of rotting fruits and stale bread lingered in the air, a testament to the chaos that had gripped the city. Suddenly, a shout broke the quiet. "Stop! In the name of the law!" The voice was harsh, echoing through the square. Shirin's heart dropped. The Basij had found them. "Run!" she shouted, the command jolting through her body like electricity. The group scattered in an instant, instinct kicking in. Feet pounded against the pavement, a cacophony of desperation. Shirin sprinted, the adrenaline surging through her limbs, propelling her forward. The sounds of pursuit closed in. She glanced back, catching a glimpse of a figure in uniform, the Basiji insignia stark against the night. The fear on her comrades' faces ignited a fire in her belly. They couldn't be caught. They wouldn't let their dreams, their hopes, be extinguished. "Over here!" Layla shouted, pointing to a narrow passageway between two crumbling buildings. Shirin followed without hesitating. They squeezed through the gap, the rough brick scraping against their skin as they darted into the darkness. Inside, the air was suffocating, thick with the scent of damp and decay. The walls closed in on them, shadows looming larger than life. They paused, their breaths ragged, listening intently. Footsteps echoed from outside, heavy boots pounding on the pavement. "They can't have gone far," a voice barked. The tension was palpable. Shirin could feel the vibrations of their heartbeats reverberating through the stillness. "Do you think they saw us?" Another voice questioned, tinged with anxiety. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Shirin replied, her voice a strained whisper. They had to keep moving. The weight of silence pressed down. With a shared determination, they crept deeper into the shadows, the darkness swallowing them whole. The distant sounds of the city faded, replaced by their own heartbeat. a reminder of the urgency that coursed through their veins. Time felt warped, each second stretching into infinity as they navigated further into the labyrinth of the forgotten. The walls seemed to close in tighter, the dim light barely illuminating their path. Shirin felt the cold sweat trickling down her back, her mind racing with possibilities. Where would they go? How could they escape? As they reached what seemed like a dead end, Shirin's heart sank. The high wall loomed before them, a seemingly insurmountable barrier. Panic clawed at her throat, but Layla stepped forward, her determination unwavering. "We can climb it," she said, her voice steady. Shirin felt a glimmer of hope ignite within her. "We have to try." They began to scramble, their fingers gripping the rough surface, the jagged edges biting into their skin. The sound of footsteps grew louder, the urgency of their situation becoming more apparent. They couldn't falter now. Shirin climbed higher, each movement fueled by a surge of adrenaline. She reached the top, her heart racing as she looked down at her comrades. "Come on, it's clear." One by one they joined her. The overwhelming scent of fear mingled with the musty air around them, each breath a reminder of the stakes. They were on the precipice of freedom, yet danger loomed just behind them. As the last woman scrambled over, Shirin held her breath, waiting for the sound of the basiji to grow closer. But for now, they were safe, hidden in the shadows of uncertainty. The moon cast a silvery glow, illuminating their path ahead. The world beyond felt like a distant dream, yet the weight of their mission pressed heavily on their shoulders. They were not just fleeing, they were chasing a future filled with hope, with the promise of a life beyond the chains that bound them. With newfound resolve, Shirin squeezed through a narrow opening. The cold night air hit her face, a biting reminder that they were far from safe. But they had taken the first step, and that made all the difference. The path ahead, though shrouded in darkness, sparked a flicker of hope. They could make it. They had to make it. Shirin crouched against the cold wall, the jagged edges digging into her back. The clamoring thoughts in her mind roared louder than the world outside. Every breath felt heavier, weighed down by the reality she had never dared to confront. Khamenei's vision had been a twisted promise, a mirage that never fulfilled its allure. The whispers of the basij, the chants of loyalty, they all echoed hollow now, a cacophony of betrayal. Why did I believe? The question looped endlessly, a haunting refrain. Her hands trembled at her sides, fingers curling into tight fists. Each heartbeat pulsed through her veins, a reminder of the life she had been forced to live. The air stung her lungs, sharp and biting, as she tried to ground herself in this moment. But all she could see were memories flickering through her mind like a broken film reel. The countless times she had raised her fist in fervent support, repeating slogans of faith that now felt like chains. "Marg bar Amrika." The chant rang through her, a bitter taste in her mouth. She could still picture the fervor in the crowd, the ecstatic faces surrounding her. Dariush, her comrade, had shouted those words with such conviction. "We are fighting for our freedom," he had insisted. But freedom? She felt trapped, corners closing in, walls pressing down. The truth seeped into her consciousness, a slow, insidious poison, and each drop felt like a revelation. "Freedom or oppression?" she murmured, the words barely escaping her lips. The line between the two blurred. She couldn't tell where one began and the other ended. Every woman around her had been taught to embrace the glory of their sacrifice. For our country, for our future, they were told. But what future awaited them under the weight of lies? The smell of burning tires and distant gunfire mingled in her memory, the taste of fear lingering on her tongue, the scent of a nation drowning in blood. A cold sweat trickled down her spine, joining the chill of the night air. She could feel the panic rising, a tight knot in her throat. With each passing moment, the weight of her choices bore down on her. The fear of being caught by the Urg lingered at the edges of her mind. What if they were found? What awaited them? The thought of returning felt like a death sentence, but so did the nagging weight of betrayal. Betrayal not just to her comrades, but to herself. Who am I really? The question gnawed at her, relentless. The Shirin who had fought for ideology now felt like a ghost, a mere echo of a woman who once believed in a cause. She had grown up in Vanak, learning to idolize the leaders who promised a bright tomorrow. How could she have been so naive? The image of the Evin prison loomed in her mind, a place of terror, where dissent was met with brutality. The shadows of fear danced in the dark corners of her thoughts. "Is this what we were meant to become?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Each word felt like a knife turned against her heart. The camaraderie felt so solid then, but it had been built on a foundation of lies, each whisper of loyalty now coated with the ash of despair. Do they even care? The doubt crept in, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. The leaders she had once revered seemed like distant figures, cast in shadows, their faces obscured. Just puppets pulling strings, playing a game with lives. Were they even human? Her mind spiraled further down the rabbit hole of despair. The faces of her sisters swirled around her, each one filled with the same fervor she had once felt. Fatma, her closest friend, had always spoken of sacrifice as an honor. "We'll be martyrs for our country," she would say. Yet here they were, cowering in the dark, questioning everything they believed. What if it was all for nothing? The thought struck her like a cold slap. The air thickened around her, nearly suffocating. Was their journey in vain? A pit of despair opened in her stomach, twisting and turning, as she imagined the life they had left behind, the families waiting, the friends who still believed. The betrayal of those they loved felt like daggers piercing her heart one by one. Shirin's breath came shallow and quick, an echo of her spiraling thoughts. The weight of her uniform felt heavier, an anchor dragging her down. How could she face her family again? How could she ever explain this? "I've turned my back on my country," she thought, shame washing over her. The notion dug deep, every fiber of her being screaming in protest. She glanced at her comrades, shadows huddled against the wall. Each face bore the weight of uncertainty, mirroring her own turmoil. Were they all haunted by the same thoughts? Did they feel the slow collapse of their beliefs? Anxiety thickened the air, wrapping around them like a suffocating fog. The stillness of the night felt oppressive, and she longed for the sounds of life outside, the distant barking of a dog, the murmurs of the city, anything to drown out the noise in her head. But the silence remained unbroken, a haunting reminder of their isolation. "We are alone," the thought echoed, relentless and clear. "Look at us," she whispered, almost to herself. "We are the traitors." The label burned like acid against her skin, the weight of guilt mixed with fear, creating a concoction of despair that left her reeling. She clenched her fists until her nails dug into her palms, looking for something, anything, to ground her in reality. And what if we fail? A sliver of panic crept in. The taste of failure was bitter, like ashes on her tongue. She envisioned her sisters, weary but hopeful, their eyes bright with dreams of freedom. Would they understand? Could they forgive her for the doubt? "Shirin, please, don't give in to fear," she chastised herself, but the words felt weak, like a feeble attempt to push back a rising tide. The images of rebellion flashed through her mind, the chants and songs of hope that felt like distant echoes now. "Zindabad," she whispered, but the fervor had vanished, replaced with cold, hard reality. The darkness of the night seeped into her bones, wrapping her in a cocoon of despair. The walls seemed to close in tighter, the world outside growing distant. It felt like suffocation, an endless cycle of paranoia creeping into her thoughts. What if they come for us? The shadows became monsters, lurking just beyond her vision. Marg bar Kamenai. The words had once brought her comfort, but now they felt like a ghostly chant, fading with each breath. Each syllable echoed with disillusionment. What had it all meant? Did freedom exist? Or was it merely an illusion designed to keep them in line? Shirin pressed her palms against her temples, feeling the chaos swirling within. She closed her eyes, searching for clarity amid the storm, but all she found was a spiraling abyss, pulling her deeper into a void of uncertainty. "Where do we go from here?" she whispered into the darkness. The question lingered, hanging heavy in the air, and just like that, she understood. They were no longer soldiers of the regime, bound by loyalty. They were women seeking truth, grappling with the weight of their choices, desperate for clarity in an ocean of lies. Each breath became a reminder of the reality they faced. They had crossed a line, but the consequences loomed ahead, more terrifying than the horrors of their past. As the night deepened, the shadows of their past intertwined with the uncertain future, leaving Shirin to confront the ghosts of her beliefs. The cold concrete beneath Shirin's feet felt like ice. Every sound echoed in the silence that surrounded them. A soft rustle from the back reminded her they weren't alone. 7 pairs of eyes flickered anxiously, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. Each woman knew the gravity of their plans. They were on a precipice poised to leap into the unknown. "We need to make this work," Shirin said, her voice barely above a whisper. The air was thick with tension, each word hanging heavy. "Every detail matters." Nilufar nodded, her brow furrowed. "Resources are limited. We can't risk drawing attention." She clutched a tattered map of the route to Iraq, its edges frayed. The map was their lifeline, but it felt fragile, teetering on the brink of discovery. "We need supplies," another voice chimed in, hushed but urgent. "Food, water, something to cover our tracks." The thought of being caught sent a shiver down Shirin's spine. The IRGC wouldn't hesitate. They would hunt them down like animals. The walls felt like they were closing in. Shirin could feel the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders. The air tasted stale, mixed with fear and adrenaline. "We can't go back to Narmak. They're watching," she said, her heart racing. "We'll have to find a way to gather everything on the move." "But how?" Nilufar asked, her voice trembling slightly. The fragility of trust weighed heavily in the air. "We can't just walk into a store and buy food. The besieged will be everywhere." Shirin thought of the last time she had dared to venture out. The streets of Tehran had felt like a minefield, every shadow a potential threat. The smell of grilled kebabs wafted through the air, enticing but dangerous. She had felt her heart pound in her chest, every step calculated, yet tense. "We can use the old connections," another soldier suggested, her eyes darting. "People in the Ekbatan district, they owe us favors." "Those connections are tenuous at best," Shirin replied, biting her lip. "What if they turn us into the IRGC?" The thought gripped her with fear. "We can't risk it." The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Each woman wrestled with doubt. The taste of betrayal lingered bitterly, like the dregs of a long empty cup. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. "Shirin, what if we split up?" Nilufar suggested, her voice wavering. "It's risky, but if we gather supplies quickly and quietly..." The thought clashed against Shirin's instincts. "No," she said firmly. "If one of us gets caught, we all get caught." The weight of that reality felt overwhelming. She envisioned one of her sisters alone, vulnerable, trembling before the cold gaze of an interrogator. "Then we need an inside man," another soldier piped up. "Someone on the inside who can help us." The suggestion ignited a flicker of hope, but it was quickly doused by caution. "But who?" Shirin shot back. "We can't trust anyone. Not anymore." Every breath felt like a gamble. The thought of being captured made her stomach churn. The IRGC was notorious for their brutal methods. She could almost hear the sound of boots marching in unison, the chants of the Basij echoing in her ears. Marg Bar Khamenei had once filled her with pride, but now it was just a taunt echoing in her mind. "Let's brainstorm," she urged, pushing back the tide of panic. "What do we have at our disposal?" "Old uniforms," Nilufar suggested. "We could use those to blend in." "Until they scan our IDs," Shirin countered. "We must think bigger." They exchanged glances, the weight of their shared burden palpable. Every heartbeat felt like a ticking clock. "We need disguises," Shirin said suddenly, an idea sparking. "No one will question a couple of women carrying bags in the market." "True," another soldier chimed in. "But where do we get clothes?" "Second-hand shops. There are a few near Vanak," Nilufar replied. "They don't ask questions." The thought sent Shirin's mind racing. "And what about food? We can't buy everything from one place. They'll remember our faces." "I can stash some supplies at my uncle's," a soldier offered. "He has a small corner shop in the neighborhood. It's not much, but it'll get us through the first few days." "Then it's settled," Shirin said, her voice firming with resolve. "We'll gather what we can, split tasks, and meet here before dawn. And remember," she paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in, "we can't afford any mistakes." The women nodded, their expressions shifting from fear to determination. The plan felt fragile, like a threadbare tapestry woven from hope. Shirin caught a glimpse of their reflections in the dim light, each face a mirror of steely resolve. As they departed into the night, the weight of uncertainty lingered like a bitter taste in the air. With every step, they were charting a course into the unknown, challenging the oppressive forces that had once bound them. In the shadows, Shirin felt the chill wrap around her, a reminder of the stakes. The world outside was filled with distant sounds of a city that never slept. The clatter of dishes, laughter wafting from a nearby cafe, a child's playful scream. Life continued. But for them, that life was slipping away like grains of sand through fingers. Every sound felt amplified. Every scent felt overwhelming. The smell of fried samosas hung in the air, taunting her with memories of freedom. She thought of the warm embrace of her family, the taste of fresh naan warming her hands. But now, those memories felt like chains pulling her back into a past she desperately wanted to escape. As she moved through the streets, her heart raced. She could feel the weight of every heartbeat, the pulse of the city thrumming in sync with her anxiety. This will work, she told herself, though doubt gnawed at her. We are stronger together. Time slipped through her fingers, and every second felt like an eternity. The night would soon pass, and with it, their chance to reclaim their lives. But they had to be smart. Each decision mattered. The plan was fragile, but it was all they had. And in that moment, as she navigated the streets of Tehran, she felt the flicker of hope ignite within her once more. The path to freedom was fraught with danger, but it was a risk worth taking. And with that resolve, she pressed on, her heart filled with the whispers of her sisters beside her. Each step forward a declaration of their shared destiny. The air was sharp and frigid, biting at Shirin's cheeks as they gathered in the shadows of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Tehran. She glanced at her watch. Midnight. The time had come, and the world felt heavier, laden with the weight of their mission. Each breath crystallized in the stillness, a reminder of the impending risk. The muffled sounds of the city faded, leaving only the whisper of the wind, a ghostly companion in their endeavor. "Stay close to me," Shirin instructed, eyes scanning the dimly lit surroundings. The nervous fidgeting of her sisters was palpable. The tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as they gathered their small bags. Each one contained essentials, a few changes of clothes, some food, and the hope of a future they had yet to claim. A faint smell of rust wafted from the corroded metal beams, mixing with the scent of damp earth. Just a few streets away lay the first checkpoint. It loomed in the distance, menacing and unyielding. The IRGC guards stood vigil, their green uniforms stark against the moonlight. They were known for their ruthlessness, their eyes searching for any sign of defiance. Shirin closed her eyes momentarily, summoning the strength within. "Remember, we are just women on our way to visit family," she reminded her squad. The words felt like a fragile shield against the chaos that awaited them. As they crept closer, the sound of gravel crunching beneath their feet seemed deafening. The night air was electric, charged with anticipation and dread. Shirin led the way, her heart hammering in her chest. She could hear the soft whispers of her sisters, their voices mingling with the rustle of the trees, creating a symphony of anxiety. When they reached the checkpoint, the harsh glare of the floodlights caught them off guard. Shirin's breath quickened. The guards eyed them with suspicion, and the weight of their gaze felt like lead. "We were in a rush." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but it was all they had. "Let me see your bags," he ordered, stepping toward them with a predatory glint in his eyes. Shirin felt the collective breath of her sisters hitch. This was the moment that could unravel everything. Each second stretched into eternity as she exchanged nervous glances with her comrades. "Just some food and clothes, sir," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She helped her sisters open their bags. The tin cans of chickpeas, the small jars of pickles, and the neatly folded chador were all visible. The guard inspected them, his face betraying a mix of irritation and boredom. "Do you have anything more valuable?" he asked, his tone laced with greed. "No, sir," Nilufar answered, her voice a whisper. "We are just simple women." The guard shifted, his gaze lingering on Shirin. "You girls should be careful. There are many dangers out there." "Thank you for your concern," Shirin replied, forcing a smile. "We just want to see our family." A long silence hung in the air. The guard's eyes narrowed, searching for any hint of deceit. Finally, he waved them through, but not without a warning. "Don't let me catch you causing trouble." They breathed again, stepping into the darkness beyond the checkpoint. The cold night air felt like freedom, yet it was tinged with uncertainty. The sounds of the guards faded behind them, but the adrenaline still coursed through their veins. "Next stop, the bus," Shirin whispered, quickening her pace. They moved through the narrow streets of Vanak, the faint glow of streetlights painting the asphalt with pools of light. The shadows danced around them as they rushed toward a nearby bus station, their destination a mere 30 minutes away. As they approached the station, a knot tightened in Shirin's stomach. The scent of diesel hung heavy in the air, mingling with the distant smell of fried falafel from a vendor nearby. The station was bustling with late-night travelers, and the noise of voices mixed with the honking of horns outside. "Stick to the plan," Shirin reminded them. "Act normal. We're just passengers." The ticket counter was busy, a young man behind the glass serving a group of men. Shirin felt her heart race as they waited in line. The minutes dragged on, feeling like hours. Each tick of the clock echoed in her ears. She could sense the fatigue in her sisters, nerves frayed and exhaustion hanging on their shoulders like heavy cloaks. When it was their turn, Shirin approached the counter, forcing a calm demeanor. "2 tickets to Kermanshah, please." She handed over the cash, desperately trying to keep her hands from trembling. "ID?" the clerk asked, barely looking up. Shirin's mind raced. "Left it at home," she offered, her voice as steady as she could manage. "Family emergency." The clerk raised an eyebrow but reached for the tickets. "Hurry up, the bus leaves soon." They hurried to the platform, the chill of the night biting at their exposed skin. The bus was old, its blue paint peeling and faded, but it was moving them closer to freedom. Shirin climbed aboard, her heart pounding. She glanced back, watching her sisters file in behind her, each face a mask of determination. As the bus lurched forward, the city of Tehran receded into darkness. The glow of the headlights pierced through the night, illuminating the road ahead. Shirin leaned back in her seat, the hum of the engine vibrating through her body. She could hear the muffled chatter of other passengers. The scent of burnt oil mingled with the smell of fabric softener from the seats. Minutes turned to moments, and the landscape outside transformed, from the chaos of the city to the barren beauty of the desert. They were leaving everything behind. The thrill of the unknown surged through Shirin, tinged with fear and exhilaration. "Stay alert," she whispered to the others. "We're not out yet." The bus rattled on, and with each bump, Shirin felt the intensity of their mission surging within her. The vastness of the desert stretched endlessly, the starlit sky a canopy of hope above them. As they crossed the border into Iraq, each passing moment felt like a heartbeat of freedom drawing closer. Every sound faded, leaving only the rhythmic thump of her pulse and the unwavering resolve of her sisters beside her. And then, it happened. The bus slowed, approaching another checkpoint. The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force weighing down on them. Shirin's heart raced. She exchanged quick glances with her sisters, the fear of discovery looming large. "Just act natural," she murmured, but the words felt hollow against the gravity of their situation. The bus creaked to a halt, and the guards loomed ahead, their figures outlined against the harsh lights. This was it. They were on the precipice of their freedom, but the abyss of uncertainty stretched before them, like an unfathomable chasm. Every heartbeat echoed her dread as she prepared for the final test. Would their lies hold? Would the darkness of their past catch up with them in the unforgiving light of the present? They were about to find out. The guards approached, heavy boots crunching against the gravel. Shirin felt her throat tighten. Time slowed, every breath a labor. The air thickened, saturated with fear. Then, the moment shattered. The guard gestured for them to step out. Her heart raced. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice a whisper. Each sister moved in unison, stepping onto the ground of Iraq. It felt different beneath their feet. The earth here was dry and cracked, the air warm and sweet, tinged with the scent of wildflowers. Shirin glanced around, taking it all in, but her senses were overwhelmed. "Passports!" another guard barked, the demand cutting through the silence. They fumbled, hands shaking as they retrieved their documents. Shirin could hear the rustle of paper, the tremor of desperation in the air. The guard yoked them over, eyes hard and unyielding. They held their breath. Shirin's palms were slick with sweat, the faint smell of fear mingling with the sharpness of the night. The guard waved them through. "Go." The sisters exhaled, a collective sigh of relief. They had crossed the threshold. Yet, instead of celebration, a weight settled on Shirin's chest. The enormity of their choice pressed down like a heavy blanket. They were free, yes, but what did that truly mean? They walked along a dirt path leading away from the checkpoint. The surrounding landscape unfolded before them, vast and endless. The stars twinkled above, a blanket of diamonds scattered over a dusky sky. For a moment, it felt surreal, too beautiful to be real. And then, as the darkness of the night wrapped around them, the silence broke. Shirin's sister, Layla, suddenly sank to her knees, a sob erupting from deep within her. The sound was raw, primal. It echoed against the barren walls of the desert. Shirin knelt beside her, the warmth of her sister's tears spilling onto the ground. "Layla, it's okay," Shirin whispered, wrapping her arms around her. The tears, their release, flowed like a river, cleansing the anguish they had pent up for years. The weight of the past slipped away with each drop that fell. Others joined them, collapsing to the ground in a heap of emotions. The cool earth pressed against Shirin's palms, grounding her amid the storm of feelings. The scent of dust filled her nostrils, mingling with the warm breeze. Every breath was a reminder of what they had left behind. "I thought I'd never see this day," Zari murmured, her voice cracking. She could barely speak through her tears. "I thought we'd die fighting." Shirin held her tightly, the warmth of her body a comfort against the chill of the night air. "But we're here now. We made it." The silence wrapped around them, punctuated only by their cries. Each sister dug deep into themselves, releasing the burdens they had carried for so long. The sounds of their pain mingled with the distant rustle of leaves. Freedom was a bittersweet symphony, layered with loss and hope. After what felt like an eternity, the weeping subsided. They rose, their expressions a mixture of relief and disbelief. The glow of the moon illuminated their faces, casting soft shadows. They stood together, shoulders touching, a united front against the unknown. Shirin felt the warmth of camaraderie, the bond forged through shared trauma. "What now?" she asked softly, still unsure of their next step. "We find shelter," one sister suggested, her voice steady. "We regroup." And then, it all hit Shirin at once. The full weight of reality crashed over her. "We're free," she whispered, the words trembling out. A wave of emotion surged through the group again. This time, it was a roar, a chant breaking the silence of the night. "Freedom! Azadi!" they cried together, their voices rising, echoing into the expanse of the desert. The sound carried, a declaration of their new lives. Shirin felt the power resonate within her, vibrating through her core. They were survivors, warriors of their own fate. And then, the first light of dawn kissed the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold. Shirin turned to face the new day, a sense of possibility blooming in her heart. The world felt alive, electric. She could smell the earth awakening, the promise of a future unfurling before them. "Let's move," Shirin said, her voice stronger now. "We have so much to do." As they began to walk, the sun rose higher, illuminating the path to their new lives. Each step felt lighter, a promise of the freedom they had long desired. The desert stretched on, a land of opportunities. And for the first time, Shirin felt the grip of fear loosen. They were not just survivors, they were pioneers of their destiny. They walked on, the sun rising steadily. Shirin felt the warmth on her skin, a stark contrast to the cold she had known for so long. But with each step, a shadow loomed over her heart. Survivor's guilt gnawed at her insides. She had escaped, but at what cost? Her sisters had left behind family, friends, comrades. Faces flickered in her mind, each one a reminder of those who had not made it. She recalled the voices of her fallen comrades, their laughter echoing in the training halls of the IRGC. The sound of their boots marching in unison haunted her dreams. Shirin had always felt invincible, a warrior among warriors. But now, she was a ghost, tethered to the memories of those who remained trapped. At night, when the world grew quiet, nightmares crept in. Images of the Basijah training camps, the harsh drills, and the thundering commands of their instructors invaded her sleep. She would wake in a cold sweat, heart pounding, the walls of her new home closing in. Last night, she had dreamt of the Evan prison, the haunting cries of those who suffered within its walls. Those echoes, relentless, chased her through the dark, reminding her of the price of freedom. Zari often held her during those moments. "Shirin, we have to let go," she would whisper, her voice a soft balm. But how could she? Each moment of peace felt like a betrayal to their lost sisters. A part of her believed she should still be fighting, should still be suffering alongside them. Days passed, each one dragging like the slow crawl of the sun across the sky. They found shelter in a small apartment in Vanak, the walls bare and unwelcoming. The air was different here, cleaner, yet foreign. The scent of spices lingered from the neighbors' kitchens, a stark contrast to the stale, oppressive air of the regime's barracks. Shirin would stand at the window, gazing out at the bustling streets below. Women in vibrant chadors moved gracefully, laughter ringing out like chimes in the wind. Their joy felt like a distant memory. She had been a part of that world once, yet now it felt elusive, like a mirage. "Look at them," she would say to Zari, her voice barely a whisper. "They don't know." Zari would join her by the window, her eyes softening. "They don't know what it cost us to be here." They spent hours talking, sharing fragments of their past, their fears for the future. Shirin recounted the chants that filled her youth, the Allahu Akbar echoing from the rooftops, the pride she once felt. Zari spoke of her family, the sacrifices they made, each story a thread in the fabric of their shared pain. But even as they bonded, the culture shock weighed heavily on them. Simple things felt monumental. The first time they went grocery shopping, the colors and choices overwhelmed Shirin. She wandered the aisles, fingers grazing the packages. The scent of fresh bread wafted through the air, mingling with spices and fruits. "What is this?" she exclaimed, holding up a package of cookies, the bright colors dazzling her senses. Zari laughed. "It's just a cookie." But to Shirin, it was an explosion of freedom. She placed it in the basket, alongside fruits she had never seen before. Each item felt like a new discovery, yet the richness of it all felt like a weight pressing down on her chest. On the bus, the chatter of strangers filled the air, the easy laughter, the casual way people interacted. It felt like a world apart. Shirin clutched the strap of her bag, heart racing. She was an outsider, a stranger in this new life. "Can you believe we're here?" Zari asked, eyes bright with excitement. "Not really," Shirin replied, her voice low. "It's all too much." And then there were the moments of sheer panic. The first time a stranger smiled at her, it sent her heart into a frenzy. Was that genuine kindness, or something else? She felt exposed, vulnerable in ways she had never anticipated. "Do they know who we are?" she whispered to Zari, fear crawling up her spine. "They don't care," Zari assured her. "This is our chance." But that chance felt weighted with uncertainty. The freedom they had fought for now felt like a burden. Shirin longed for the comfortable familiarity of the bossage, the regimentation, the structure. There was clarity in duty. Here, everything felt fluid, chaotic. As days turned into weeks, the guilt ate at her relentlessly. She would stand alone in the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. The reflection looking back at her was foreign. "I'm still me," she murmured, but the face in the mirror seemed to disagree. Zari would knock softly, concern lacing her voice. "You okay?" "Just tired," Shirin would respond, forcing a smile. But she wasn't just tired. She was grieving for a past she couldn't reclaim, haunted by the lives they left behind. And then one night, the silence broke. The sound of distant chants floated through the air. Shirin froze, her heart racing. A group of protesters marched down the street, shouting for Azadi. Tears streamed down her face as she rushed to the window. Their voices resonated with every fiber of her being. "Freedom!" they cried. "Azadi!" But then the guilt crashed over her. Those voices were a reminder of what they had sacrificed. "Would our sisters be proud?" she whispered to Zari, who stood beside her, tears glistening. Zari placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We have to honor them, Shirin. They live on through us." But how? How could they carry the weight of their memories in this new world? Shirin's heart ached. Each moment of joy felt tainted with sorrow. And as the night deepened, she whispered into the darkness, "Would you have done the same?" Tell me in the comments.